Today on Locked On Red Wings, we answer your questions, namely, should we be concerned about Patrick Kane's performance, and how much would we be willing to spend on Robert Thomas?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which I just said. You can get us ad-free, however, by going to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Subscribe to the Everydayer Club. Get our episodes ad-free, as well as access to an exclusive Discord server in which you can talk to us. Today, it's been a long time, Scotty, since we have been able to do a mailbag episode.
You know what we should do? This one's great and everything. I think there's a way to combine the Everydayer like Discord with mailbag and be like, I don't know, like maybe that I don't like in the future. Obviously, this one it is what it is, but I think it's cool to have that available. You know, where you have the Discord server with other listeners and you and I, obviously, and that's a really easy forum to ask questions like that. And it's awesome to see that we get so many nowadays, because I remember when you and I first started, when there would be, you know, hey, we have a mailbag and we have 2 questions. So it's always humbling and always an honor to
I did post the social post in the Discord for those who are in there, so they were aware of it. We did get a handful. It wasn't 2 like you were alluding to just there, although I was worried for a little bit. The post went up sometime in the morning saying there's a mailbag, and like we got 1 in like the first few hours, and I was like, oh man, because we've never done an email style before. Right. We've always just done reply under the social post. Email format is easier for me personally to just kind of have everything, although I did skim the social posts as well. But there were a couple I really wanted to spend time on. The 2 I alluded to in the cold open. We'll do a few more on top of that. We got enough that we just aren't going to be able to get to all of them in a 30-minute episode. So if you don't hear yours answered, doesn't mean that I didn't see it. I appreciate it nonetheless. We just have a 30-minute format, so we don't have time. But it's been a long while since we've answered your guys' question. And I thought the very first one, the one I kind of just alluded to that we had sitting in our inbox all alone for a little bit, was a good one, because it was kind of something that I've had on my mind for a little bit. This one came from Tigers Fan 63, and it was also asked as well by Rafi as well about Patrick Kane's production and should we be concerned. He's got 0 goals and 6 assists in his last 13 games. He's only got 8 goals total on this season while putting up 32 points in 43 games. So the overall production is on pace for 61 points from Patrick Kane. But the goal totals are definitely down. Now, keep in mind, he's been injured twice. So that has an impact. His points per game is .74. He's on pace for 60 points, but only 16 goals, which is definitely a step back from what we've seen the first 2 years with Detroit. I want to know your thoughts, Scotty, on how Patrick Kane's performance has been this season.
Yeah, to me, it's pretty cut and dry. And I don't know if that's a testament to the way that he's actually been playing or how like simplified my brain is at this point. But like to me, it's really at 5-on-5, he has not produced a whole lot. And honestly, I'm not even sure how much value he has left in his career at even strength. I know that may sound dramatic, but we haven't really seen a whole lot. And on the power play, he is still an absolutely like game changer and has the potential to be a dynamic weapon. And to me, that leads me to a point where in the future, I'm not as married to like Patrick Kane needs to be in the top 6, which I know some people hear and is like, oh my goodness, blasphemy. Like, how dare you? And I get it. I understand. And they don't really have anyone, you know, chomping at the bit necessarily to take that spot from him on the second line. And we, you know, the chemistry with DeBrincat, and he's producing a lot. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm just saying if they were to change it, I certainly wouldn't be upset. So I guess that's more of just like, I don't really care what happens to him, even strength either way the rest of the season. And even on the power play, he got demoted to power play 2, if you call that a demotion. And so, yeah, it's just, to me, that's kind of where my brain is at. It's like at even strength, I don't need to give him 18 plus minutes a night really anymore. I'm good on that if the team decides that they don't want to. But at the same time, it's still Patrick Kane, and he still has shown the ability to produce. And if the team wants to keep just him in the same role that he's at, I'm not necessarily going to get in the way of that and be mad at it either. To me, he's really more of just a power play weapon at this point in his career.
Yeah, it's interesting because what you see with the eye test at 5-on-5 doesn't marry with the results, because he still is literally half of his points have come at 5-on-5. He's got 32 points on the season and 43 games played. 16 have come at 5-on-5 because in December, I think actually January, the second line was the Red Wings' best line. That was the line that was producing, and Alex DeBrincat was on an incredible tear, and a lot of that had to do with Andrew Kopp and Patrick Kane finding Alex DeBrincat in those situations. So he is still producing, and he is still producing, honestly, at a clip that I would have expected at a guy who's another year older. Like his goal scoring taking a step back, I'm not concerned over Patrick Kane's production because he's 35, 36, 37. He's 37 years old. At a certain point, you kind of expect there to be a step back in goal scoring. Like you said, though, Scotty, he does still produce on the power play as well, although the power play has been ice cold lately, and he has spent time on power play unit 2, though he was back with power play unit 1 against Utah. I'm not concerned because this is just what was always going to happen. And even despite that, he's still producing. But I do definitely have worries when I watch him play at 5-on-5. And I think you're right in that I don't think he can play top 6 minutes much longer. If you watch, he gets the puck in the neutral zone and he doesn't skate with the puck up the ice. He's always looking for somebody to pass the puck off to. Yeah. Makes him predictable. In the offensive zone, he's going to stop up against the boards and try to make a pass. It makes him predictable. More and more teams are just bodying him up and knocking him off the puck. He's very lean these days, probably to maintain his health, and it's making him easy to get knocked off the puck. He's never engaged in board battles on the offensive zone or the defensive zone. We always kind of accepted that as part of the package because
he wasn't doing that when he was putting up 100-point seasons. So, certainly isn't now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and his speed certainly isn't getting any better as he ages, especially after the hip surgery. There are definitely signs to me that I'm like, okay, his 5-on-5 play feels as if his pace of play is eroding pretty fast, but he's still, for what it's worth, picking up points. 16 points on the power play, 16 points at 5-on-5. So it's just it can be really, I'll be honest, it can be really infuriating and frustrating to watch at times because it feels like the puck gets to him and then it's a turnover because he's bumped off the puck so easily. You can blow him over. But then he'll make that high IQ play and you're like, well, okay, that's Patrick Kane. Also, on the flip side of that too, I've had this discussion with people. It's is this Patrick Kane's last year in a Red Wings uniform? If we had a replacement, yeah. But
right.
There's no one on the roster who can play Patrick Kane's minutes and be as effective as Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane also can't play bottom 6. He's not built for it. It's a different type of game that you usually ask your bottom 6 to play. It's either top 6 or bust for a guy like Patrick Kane. So, if they could upgrade at that position, I'd consider it. Moving on from Patrick Kane, but the reality of the situation is, as of this moment, you don't have a player better than 37-year-old Patrick Kane to play on your second line right wing. So, am I concerned? No, this is expected. He's 37 years old. He's still producing in his role, and he's making the best of what he can with where he's at in his career. But that's just, again, because it was expected.
Yeah, I also think with the point about is this his last year here or what the replacement, etc. That's that feels like an off-season question. That's not going to get answered mid-season. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's not going to get answered from now until game 82. But that being said, I mean, you're going to get some money off the books if you want it this at the end of this year, and there's nothing that says that they don't go out and maybe try and acquire someone who can fill that void a little bit more. But it's a weird thing because they're also looking for kind of a top line wing. So like if you were to get somebody of that caliber, you'd almost be like, okay, I'm not, I'd probably rather put a big money, top 6 forward at that spot than replace Kane. So yeah, I mean then you start a much broader conversation even, but I don't disagree with anything you said.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to chase him out of town. I'm just, have been my observations, and I know how big of an impact he has in the locker room. Like,
for sure.
I'm not opposed to having Patrick Kane here, but these are just my observation. I feel as if his pace and his strength have taken a real step back this year, but he still has the hands and hockey IQ to produce at a pretty reasonable amount because he's Patrick Kane.
Right.
So, Scotty, let's take a break. When we return, I want to get to the next question. Stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game that everyone has been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off this season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get a $200 bonus bet if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, this season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Scotty, this next question actually comes from somebody who cheated. The new format, I wanted people to email in the questions, and I told you, I still looked at the comments because what if there was a gem? This person asked a really good question, so even though they didn't follow my instructions, I'm still going to read the question because it was a good question.
I told everyone I'm pro making your life harder, actually, and was kind of rooting for that. So
this came from @BradyMiller on YouTube because I posted the question, the mailbag graphic on YouTube as well. He goes, what are you comfortable giving up for Robert Thomas? Who's untouchable? Scotty, why don't you start us off there?
Well, I mean, goodness, this is kind of, I guess, a little bit of an expansion on what we talked about. Was that last week already, or maybe at the start of this week? The untouchable question is a very difficult one for me because as a general philosophy, I don't really subscribe to like anyone on your team being untouchable. But for Robert Thomas, because that is the question, specifically, I mean, I really anybody outside of the like core, I'm not giving up. Obviously, Larkin's not going anywhere, but like I'm not giving up him, Raymond or Sider. I think it would be kind of silly to give up, if DeBrincat was involved with that would seem kind of ridiculous. You're just letting your most productive like goal scorer walk out of the room so that you can get more points. That seems counterintuitive. So I don't think that would make too much sense from the Wings perspective either. But from like a tradable assets perspective, I don't think there's a single one that I'm absolutely not moving. As long as it's not Sider, Raymond, Larkin, and then again, like the guys that just logically it wouldn't make sense. I think I'm probably game for just about anything.
There are 5 players I'm not giving up in a trade for Robert Thomas.
I just mentioned.
The 3 you just mentioned, DeBrincat and Edvinsson.
Okay. Edvinsson. Sure, yeah, he was kind of the borderline one for me. But
for me, he's
sure.
You clearly see with him out how badly you do need him in the lineup.
Yeah.
Sider did a great job covering, playing 30-plus minutes a night, and the other defenseman I think stepped up well too, but obviously this team's way better with him in the lineup. But that doesn't make the trade impossible, right? I can't remember who made the quote on social media, and that's on me. But it was said on social media by an insider that there's very few teams that can swing a trade for Robert Thomas because they're asking for the equivalent of 3 top 15 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
And myself and many other Red Wings fans saw that and went, we would do that.
Right.
I mean, Robert Thomas is 26 years old. He's in year 3 of an 8-year deal, so he's got 4 years remaining on his contract. That's paying him just $8.1 million. He's had seasons that have eclipsed point totals higher than Dylan Larkin twice. 86 points in 2024, 81 points this last season. He's producing less at a smaller clip this season. The Blues in general are having a pretty tough year, but this is a guy who's capable of 85-plus points in the NHL. Marco Kasper, for instance, do you think he has an 86-point ceiling? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Nate Danielson, do you think he has an 85-point ceiling? I don't think so. I don't think MBN or Carter Bear do. And this is a guy who's a center and a right shot center at that. He would, with 4 years remaining and is in his prime, he would be a long-term solution at 2C. Sure. So while there's 5 guys I'm not willing to give up in a trade, there's a plethora of other items I'd be willing to give up. Now, there's a limit. I'm not selling the whole farm, but a first-round pick, Nate Danielson and Carter Bear, I'd do that. Because
so would I.
Robert Thomas is going to have a higher impact, I believe, than Nate Danielson. It's going to be 3 or 4 years before Carter Bear's here, and your first-round pick that you're giving up in the trade even more so. Like, this is a guy who's going to literally move the needle and long-term solve your center depth question. And it brings the cup window up. It speeds it up, opens it up earlier.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I agree with you. We can move on to a different question. I mean, straight up, I'm trading any picks. F them picks. I don't care anymore. And from a player personnel perspective, again, I'm not giving up 8 first-round picks for a third liner. Like, obviously the value has to be correct. I'm not saying just splurge on anything and anyone, but I do think that I am not attached to any pick at this point. You're trying to make the playoffs. It's not going to be a high, like top 20 or lottery pick anyway. And from a prospect perspective, I'm not really sure there's anybody in the farm currently that you project to be as impactful of an NHL players on the forward side of things, especially as, these guys that are like point a game players. Yeah.
Right. This next question, Scotty, comes from Fabio Beratucci.
Great name, if that's
giving
a real
us
name.
Greetings from Veracay near Milan. I don't know if I pronounced any of that correctly.
I'm going to go with you didn't, but the respect is there.
I tried my best. The
Right.
intent was to pronounce it as accurately as possible. I apologize if I did not get it correct. But, I mean, thank you for listening, and hope you enjoy the Olympics if you're going to head down. I don't know how far away they are. He says near Milan. I don't know what.
Yeah, you don't know your geography over there very
I don't know my European geography that well. I know it okay, actually, but not that well. Not quite that well. He asks, do you think that Yzerman will trade for a top 6 forward, a top 4 defenseman, both, or nothing?
Well, if it's nothing, I'm going scorch earth on this podcast, and I know that you're in a similar boat as me. I really do, and again, I kind of alluded to this earlier in the week. If you would have asked me, in the beginning of January, I would have said the only thing they really need is a top 4 defenseman, and I could have lived if they weren't too aggressive on the forward front. I think, and again, you don't want to overreact to a small sample size just because of recency bias, but even that in the back of my mind, I still think they're probably at a point now where if you are serious about making a push, you probably need both. I think you certainly need a defenseman. You need a top 4 defenseman, and I don't know how you can look at the structure of the lineups in terms of the forward group and not think that it could really use or even just straight up needs, another kind of dynamic point producer in that top 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to answer the question without fully answering the question, as that's the Brian special right there. I agree with Scotty. Scorched earth if they don't make a trade. That would be just a dereliction of duty with where this team is at. Even if they go on a losing skid coming out of the Olympics, it's time to invest in the team and try to make them have a push. The question becomes, do I think that it'll be both of them? I would love it to be both. I would be surprised if it's both. So the question becomes, do I think it'll be a top 6 forward or a top 4 defenseman? I could see it be both. I do think it'll be one, and that might be just copium/hopium. I think they will get one of a top 6 forward or top 4 defenseman to add to this roster. I just don't know which one it's going to be because, like you said, Scotty, both are pretty tremendous needs for this team. If they manage to do both, I mean, the faith in Yzerman is going to skyrocket back. But just one is honestly mandatory at this point.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Scotty, let's head to another break. When we return, we'll continue and finish up our mailbag episode of Locked On Red Wings. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you're candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I need to hire somebody for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be specific about what I need. Real experience, not just resume buzzwords. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed-sponsored jobs help your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored job posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes, with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed-sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Indeed they do.
Very nicely done, Scotty.
I know you love that one, man.
It's your best one in a while, but honestly, the bar's been pretty low. This next one comes from Nick Halber. Thank you for chiming in. He's got a multi-part question. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all of them, but we'll start with number one. Who is your favorite current player and why? He says his is DeBrincat because last year when the team needed a jolt, he punched somebody or scored.
It's super fair. Why don't you go first in this one because I know who yours is, and
Moritz Seider
I've gone
there.
first on every single question so far.
Moritz Seider. If you listen to this, I might be the ultimate Moritz Seider fan here, supporter on this on the Red Wings sphere. That's not clear. I can actually name a couple others, but I'm up there in terms of people who have been singing this guy's praises for a while now. He is just awesome, and he, in my mind, deserves the Norris Trophy, although I do recognize he probably won't win it because points matter the most to voters, and an award that is handed to defensemen, which drives me absolutely up the wall. I wish there were more than one defenseman award because we have 2 awards for goalies, and we have 1 for defensemen, and then we have 8 for forwards. Makes no sense. But Moritz Seider is my favorite player.
The defenseman is oozing out of his of his body right now. The defenseman propaganda, if you will.
It's not propaganda.
It is.
You take a propaganda at Moritz Seider on the ice, and you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Wow, that was terrible. That was really, really terrible. But I respect
but you laughed.
it. Yeah, mine is. Do you know my favorite Red Wing right now?
Is it DeBrincat?
No, I love Cat though. I mean, I love all of them.
Oh no, are you gonna say something like John Leonard?
No. Currently on the roster. On the roster.
And I no disrespect to John Leonard. I just know you have a penchant.
If John Leonard was on the roster, that might actually be my answer, genuinely. But no, among active Red Wings, it is Elmer Soderblom. I don't know. There's something about the uniqueness of his profile, right? Like when you see something that is he is not a generational talent, obviously, but that is like a forward that is that size you only see once every, however many years. And I think anything that kind of falls into that category, I'm drawn to, if you will. But my most worn Red Wings sweater is Giovanni Smith, and will forever be. So,
heck yeah, man.
It's my dog. I miss him.
It's very on brand for you. You love your bottom six guys who just have to really work and earn their minutes. That's why I said John Leonard, because that's the prototype
100%,
guy who's
100%.
just chipping away, trying to get a chance at the NHL. They make it and they show heart and hustle. That's your lifeblood.
That is. It really is. It really is.
He also asks us to grade the Artemi Panarin deal. We talked a little bit about it yesterday in segment 3. I think this is going to sound insane to you. Given the situation that Chris Drury was put in, given the fact that Artemi Panarin said, I'm going to LA, I think getting Liam Greentree out of that deal is actually pretty good work.
Yeah.
Considering you had no leverage. I give it like a C+ for the Rangers, which is, I know, generous. The return's terrible for Artemi Panarin, but they had no leverage. So getting a first-round prospect, I think it is the second highest prospect in LA's system. Not that LA has a robust system, because they've been making the playoffs for a lot of years. But that's not nothing for a guy you had zero leverage on. And then for the Kings, I mean, that's an A+, right? You gave up one prospect of note, draft picks you don't care about, and then you signed him to a incredible extension.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think I'm probably a little bit more, I don't know, maybe not much. B-, maybe a B. I don't know. I just think that for me, the teams involved is almost more intriguing than the player being moved, if that makes sense. It's just we're kind of seeing that, I don't know, in a lot of these rumors and reports and like the NBA trade deadline, we saw a lot of teams that maybe weren't like at the top of the standings doing things maybe you wouldn't expect them to do, et cetera. And I wonder if that is, again, if you can, bring somebody in and extend them or vice versa, if that's something that we might see a little bit more often. So I'm kind of interested in what the future looks like. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Anytime you can bring in Panarin, I think is not going to be a bad deal necessarily. So,
Scotty, this will probably be our final question as we're almost out of time here. This one comes from Blake Little, and Blake asks us. So it's a multi-part question, but I'm going to stick to the top part here just because of time constrictions. Do you think we see anybody from Grand Rapids called up and play before the end of the season? Not because of injury, he says, but just due to earning it. And I think there's one player in my mind that we may see again. Yeah, is it Michael brandsegg-nygard?
No, it wasn't. So that's actually cool.
You're going to say Kosa?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Kosa's might be a little bit more injury based, so maybe MBN is the way to go. Just because they clearly liked him enough out of camp to put him on the roster. The Wings are kind of every team is always in a position where if there's an upgrade you can make in the bottom six, you're going to make that, and he has maybe a higher ceiling than some of the other guys that are put out there. So I think that you're probably right if you're looking for a true number one answer to that question, but I think it's impossible to ignore Kosa too much longer, and the only reason that he's not up is just because Gibson has been borderline, if not just straight up a Vezina candidate, and Talbot plays once every other week and does fine. They don't really have a need to make sure Kosa's at the NHL level right now. They have two healthy NHL goalies that are doing well enough under contract. So I do think we see him this year, but maybe that is more I don't know, injury based than performance. But we'll see. I mean, if Talbot has a few bad outings in a row, I don't think that that's too far away.
I do think that the other scenario is the worst case scenario happens and the Red Wings fall out of a playoff situation, and then they get the look at the end of the season. But
sure, well, yeah.
We don't want that this season.
Nobody wants that.
I think Michael brandsegg-nygard has really found his game down in Grand Rapids. He's been a wrecking ball out there, and he's been scoring a lot more lately as well. He's definitely got his confidence back, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a look, especially if the bottom six continues to struggle to score. The Sebastian Costa one's a good one too, but again, like you said, with how often Gibson is playing, I don't think it makes sense to call up Sebastian Costa to sit on the bench and play every sixth game when he's playing on like a championship caliber team in Grand Rapids.
Yep.
Next season, he needs to be on the roster, but just how it is right now.
I mean, they'll have a space for him next year. So
right, hopefully, assuming they don't go out. We've said that for like 3 years, and they always go out.
Well,
there
but this year's very different. He has not had an AHL season anywhere close to what he's been doing this year. So
right, I guess I will get to the second part of this question from Blake too, because it adds on to that. He just asks if we think we'll see Finney or ASP get sent down if they bring in anybody at the deadline. And I'll be frank with you, ASP, I wouldn't be terribly surprised by. And we've talked about it. Like right now, they just straight up don't have a better option at second pair right D than Axel Sandin Pellikka. I think if they brought somebody in, the first thing they would do is try him as a sheltered offensive third pair defenseman. Because in the offensive zone, like you still see those flashes and he still makes good plays, but he definitely gets picked on in the D zone for sure. Like they dump and change. So I wouldn't rule it out. I think that that's something they would consider, but they might try him on the third pair first. And Emmett Finney, I don't think Emmett Finney's been bad. I think that he definitely has not been producing at all on the third line, really, outside of that great assist he had on JVR's like no look behind the back deflection into the net the week or two ago. But he gets chances. He still hustles. He still has his speed. I think he's been keeping up with the game. I definitely do think it's a little bit of like rookie fatigue there, though. So Finney, I'm not so worried about, although, hey, waiver exemptions, maybe that's just the easiest decision they make. But ASP, I think there's an interesting conversation to be had there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with either of those things. To me, it's like the amount of players they get at their respective positions. If it's just one at each, then I don't think either does. I don't think either is the first person sent down if there's an ad made. But if there's, multiple defensemen brought in or multiple forwards, then maybe that conversation's become a little broader. But I don't think there's any chance that just from a pure numbers standpoint, if it's performance-based, it's performance-based. But from a pure numbers perspective, I don't think either of them is the first to go.
Right. All right, Scotty, you have any final thoughts on this episode?
I don't think so, man. We ball.
We do ball. Everyone, thank you so much for sending in your questions. I apologize.
Always.
We couldn't get to every single question.
We got a long Olympic break.
The problem is we're too long-winded. We could have gotten to more if we just didn't talk so much.
For sure. Well, that is I have a lot of teachers growing up that would agree with that statement. Yeah.
Man, you should have heard the parent-teacher conferences that happened when I was growing up. We'd be
brother.
My mom would sit down with my teacher. Teacher wouldn't even say anything. My mom would sit down. She goes, "Let me guess. He's a good kid, but he talks too much."
I have some wild report card comments over the years that, yeah.
My teacher would just go, "Mm-hmm. Yep."
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back with mid-season grades, and in air quotes, or in parentheses, I'll say 2/3 seasons, because the truncated schedule where the Olympic break lies, we're 2/3 of the way through the year already. But this is when we had the time to do it. So mid-season grades start next week. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.